Spoken then about that comes in the issue of cooperative education. How does one explain the cooperative education? It is based on the philosophy that learners learn best through active engagement and meaningful activities. I know at some point we simply put it as an issue of saying the learners go to the workplace and they get there and they're going to do work. But of course there's long-standing argument because the cooperative education started, I can't remember the university somewhere in the States as far back as 1906 or 1901, pretty earlier. But there have been even academic arguments. Does it add value to learning, or is it a factory for creating skills, and it's mechanical? And that takes me back also to some of the inputs that we use, even in our own context at one point. Birchwood Declaration, I remember, I think 2005 I had to present in there regarding the next generation skills. When I spoke about the collaboration between industry and education, because the two need to understand one another so that you are creating relevance in all those things. The shocking response that I got that day was, we are here to teach conceptualization, abstracts, and all those things. If you want skills, go to the TVET college. Of course, that was, from a point of misguided that, you know what, as an education system, you're a silo and you do not have a full system in the labor market. Again, explaining the CWA, the view of students, it views the student as an active learner and producers of knowledge. And again, from this perspective, it's not only an argument about learning, it's also an argument that when the student goes to the workplace, given an opportunity, is not put in the kitchen to make tea, but to basically sit around this table in problem solving, look at the way things are done. It comes with fresh ideas. Once coming with fresh ideas, of course, you can't come with fresh ideas without learning first what is it that is being done, understanding the theory behind. So that's why we normally then talk at some point about will being the application of knowledge, because for you to reason and make something, you need to pull from the source of knowledge, and then you begin to question and redesign things and move forward. Use of such instructional strategies as contextual learning and application of knowledge to real situations, and most of the time then that's how we get to define the will really. The requirement of schools to establish formal partnerships with outside entities. Now these partnerships actually need to be in such that from the design perspective, and this is where I'm talking about then relevance of what is offered, and which is why I even started about the trends, because when you are developing the pipeline, it needs to be meeting certain demands. You need to remember that you've got the supply side and you've got the demand side. If that which comes from the supply side is not in alignment and in tune with the demand side, then you're going to have redundancy in one of the ends. And of course, from the economic point of view, you're going to have scarcity. When you've got scarcity, then the cost of doing business starts rising as well. And then, of course, during the learning process itself, again, that's when the will takes place. You then have the business being able to take your students so that then they can practice will. It concerns itself for integrating school experience and the real world experience. And of course, we need to measure the evidence of learning that's taken place through this theoretical learning and workplace learning. And I put in brackets, although sometimes being controversial, because in reality, some of the universities and institutions that would actually not be proactive on cooperative and work integrated learning is because once the student is not on their hand, they presume that the student is there for mundane tasks, not necessarily to learn and engage. And of course, another challenge when one looks at it is also that if you are looking again on the work integrated learning, you are integrating learning and assessing because it normally gets related to the qualification itself. But when you are getting to the workplace, you could find that when it gets into the issues that the workplace wants and needs might not necessarily be fully integrated on your curriculum, and also the institutional curriculum might actually be behind in terms of the events to what is actually applicable at the workplace at the point in time the student goes in. The typical case on this one is, if you are looking on the ICT space, the rate of change is happening so fast such that by the time you've registered the qualification and you're most probably talking about certain programming technology, by the time student qualifies at the workplace or gets to be on the workplace, it's either version 4 of that programming tool or there's totally different programming tool. And therefore, the two are necessary to be able to be aligned to make sure that the student then is definitely effective when he or she qualifies. The Council, the Work Integrated Learning Good Practice Guide from the Council of Higher Education, it describes it as an approach, and now the CE's will, as an approach to a career-focused education that includes classroom-based and workplace-based forms of learning that are appropriate for professional qualifications. And I think, whilst it is valid, that concept actually really talks more to the experiential learning that we knew completely. But one of the other things is work integrated learning is not necessarily only limited to professional qualifications. It has always formed an important part of technical, vocational, and professional higher education, and the learning acquired using theoretical and real-life applications from concept to practice and reflecting. Again, these are the things that are happening, but again, those things do not necessarily happen automatically. There's got to be the commitment of student, there's got to be the commitment of the workplace, and of course, one of the things in the relationship triangle, that's where then you would get then the cooperative experts being able to evaluate the workplace and see their commitment and the setup to see that will it be conducive to learning. Because if one of these parties is not, then there might, particularly the element of reflecting might be lost. And then in the way the learning is affected. Of course, some definitions, wider definitions in the market itself, if you certainly go to Google, there is so many definitions of will. And also there's so many arguments whether simulation is indeed will. And that's why I actually put this star. You will see towards the end why I put the star. I'm going to leave it at this moment. What are the advantages of will? It has got academic benefits for students, such as improved general academic performance, enhancement of interdisciplinary thinking. Now, maybe to give a typical example, because I could say, even though I'm in this old age, most probably I'm the product of will myself. And when I started in my early life as a technician, I was a trainee technician. Got onto the training school. One of my colleagues was a very bright chap. He had 7 distinctions. That was in matric. But when you got into and in modern days, you know, now today you get called on to interview, you are interviewed and people say you're not suitable, or you would literally say, this gentleman was deaf. I do not know whether there is any other better language. You would actually even accuse him that, oh, maybe he copied or stole the achievement that he's got.